Hey everybody, welcome back to Build at Home. I'm your host Ricky Camilleri, coming to you from my home in Bushwick, Brooklyn, and I am joined right now from his home by Dane DeHaan, star of the new Quibi series, The Stranger. Dane, good to see you. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm okay. Before we get started talking about The Stranger, talking about what you've been up to during quarantine, we like to say at the beginning of these interviews, it's important that we say um, uh, over 700 million school lunches have gone missing for children in need because of the closures, because of the coronavirus. If you would like to find out how you can donate, how you can contribute, how you can help, please go to nokidhungry.org so that we can all take part in somehow getting these kids the meals that they need. Dane, good to see you. Good to see that you're healthy and safe. How are you
Yeah.
holding up?
Yeah, good. Thanks. The last time I saw you, I think was the day, at least for me, it was the day before everything really shut down and right, we did the interview for 000, but it was with no audience and the day and
That's
I
right.
fell on that night and then with no audience and then the next day or maybe even like a couple hours after I finished Fallon, everything started to shut down.
Yeah. Wow. I didn't realize it was that close up to the moment where everything shut down.
Yeah.
Yeah. The
Yeah.
craziest the craziest thing was I moved into a new apartment March 13th, and then
Well,
2 days later the entire city went on lockdown. It
wow.
was it's like the weirdest feeling to like everyone's like, isn't it so crazy in your neighborhood? And it's like, kind of. I don't have that habitual feeling of lots of people in this neighborhood. The neighborhood is known to me only as kind of empty.
So you moved to a new apartment in a new neighborhood?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah, it was weird. And then at the same time I had like delivery people coming in and out of my apartment for like 2 days during the lockdown, and I was just like, oh my God.
Yeah. But you're good and you're healthy.
I'm good.
Great.
I'm good. I'm healthy. So talking about the stranger, the this Quibi show that you're a part of, where you play a maniac.
Yeah. It's called The Stranger. It's on Quibi. It's basically follows Maika Monroe plays a writer that just moved to LA and an aspiring writer, I guess. So she joins the ride sharing community. And on her first night as a, I mean, it doesn't say Uber on the show because we're not allowed to, but for lack of a better, phrase, first night as an Uber driver, she picks me up, and I end up being kind of this like evil Uber client, like the Uber client from hell, and we go all around New York City in this like cat and mouse chase of a horror, scary movie situation.
He's also in some ways kind of like a MRA type guy. It feels like as well, like a men's rights sort of weird psychopath.
Yeah, for sure. It's the it's there's a lot of layers to it, and it really does unfold as you watch every like episode after episode after episode. The episodes are not all out right now. I think right now you can watch like 5 out of 13 on Quibi.
Oh,
Um,
there's 13. I watched five. Yeah.
yeah, so I think there's definitely some like incel-y men's rights energy to it. It gets into like the power of the algorithm towards the
Mm.
end of it. And there definitely is like um, he's not just like a psychopath with no intention. He's very well thought out. He has a lot of very clear motivations behind what he's doing. You know.
Is this the first time you've played? I psychopath isn't necessarily the right word, but malicious, like a malicious, mentally unstable person since like Chronicle. I know you've played people with issues regularly, routine, but not necessarily one who is has malicious intent.
Yeah, I mean maybe in Spider-Man
Okay, yeah,
he had some malicious intent.
that's right.
Um, yeah, but this is the first one I've done in kind of a while, um, and it's definitely the first one I've done since my worldview of like everyone in the world has good intentions and everyone in at their heart is a good person. I think I've learned in the last couple years that that's not necessarily true. So it's the first time that I'm coming from playing a bad guy with the thought that like there are actually people in this world that are just bad people, you know?
Can I assume that your learning experience or how you learn that is the same way that so many of us have learned that in the past couple years?
Yes, I think you could.
And have learned it on an even deeper level in the past couple months?
Oh my God, man. Just day to day, it's yes, you can assume that.
I actually I've learned. I feel like the first 2 weeks of quarantine, I was like locked in and watching the news and like watching the press conferences. And the last 2 weeks, I've been kind of like, I'm okay. I don't need to watch. I don't need to tune in for all of this. Like it
Yeah,
is just
right.
someone maliciously lying to me.
Yeah. I think like I listen to the Daily podcast,
Right.
which I really love on New York Times The Daily podcast. And that's incredibly informative. And I definitely spent a lot of time in the beginning of it all, um, trying to figure out what I should be doing, the precautions I need to be taking, and all of that. But now that I really feel like I'm taking every precaution, I'm only like I'm staying at my house. I'm only with my family. I go into town once a week to grocery shop, and that's it. And now that we're on like week 3 or 4 of that, and I've fallen into that rhythm, I also find myself not watching the news and stuff
Yeah.
as much because, I know that I'm doing my part and I'm doing everything that I can be doing. So in a way, I just don't want to be inundated with like lies or bad news or all
Yeah.
of it. Yeah.
Yeah, same. And it's like the daily, or for me, it's like Brian Lehrer on NPR. It's like I give myself 30 to 40 minutes a day of like absorbing what the news of the day is and what's happening, and then I gotta bow out.
Yeah, totally. And I've like definitely taken time, I think, to explain also to my family members, especially like, my parents and stuff, just like to make sure they know, like in New York, especially, it's really serious and it hit us kind of really suddenly. And I think it's really easy not to completely understand how serious it is until it starts to affect you directly, but that happens fast. So I've also reached out to members of my family and people I really care about to make sure they understand, the weight of the situation, and I'm asking them to take every precaution also.
Yeah, you were in New York throughout the entire sort of like lead up until I know I saw you just before the lockdown happened, but were you there for like the weeks like just prior to that?
Yeah, I was there. I was working. I'm doing this Apple TV Plus series called Lisey's Story, Stephen King thing. So and it was at a point where I was on set every day. So it was kind of like it was during when South by Southwest, people were dropping out of
Right.
that. But it was still like people were joking about it. It was still that kind of energy of like, oh, coronavirus joke. Oh, like no one really knew how serious it was going to be. And then I remember the day I did AOL build for 000, or what's it called now? Build series for
It's
000.
okay.
um, I was getting texts from my wife being like, I think we need to leave tomorrow. And we did. We left that day. And then, like, by Monday, everything was shut down. So she's been really amazing, super on top of everything.
I just remember a certain point in Brooklyn where it was sort of like we knew the neighborhood that one person had tested positive. And then like 3 days later, we knew another neighborhood where a few people had tested positive, and then another neighborhood. And then within 2 weeks, it was like 20,000 cases, which is
Yeah.
just the most insane thing. Because at a certain point, you acclimate yourself so quickly to what's
Yeah.
happening. But when you look back, it was like, that was literally 3 days ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you know anybody that personally that has it?
I don't personally. I have friends of friends, but I don't personally have anybody in my life that is tested positive. Thankfully,
Yeah.
yeah. Do you?
Yeah. So I know 2 people, both of which like definitely had it and they're fine now, but they didn't have it like severe enough to be able to obtain the test. So
Hmm.
basically, like the doctors, if you're at the point at which my friends had it, if your fever wasn't high enough, I don't know what it is now, but if your fever wasn't high enough, you couldn't get the test. They were saving the test for people with like 104-degree fevers or something. So they would just do basically a checklist of symptoms, and then they would be able to say like 99.9% you have it, but we don't have enough tests to like give you that 100% have it.
It's
So hopefully
crazy.
that's changing, and I don't know how that's changing, but you know, these are like one of them is one of the most healthy people I know, like incredibly healthy, and it knocked him out. You know, like it was,
Really?
yeah.
Wow. But you're healthy, and that's great. Are you watching? Are you reading anything in your quarantine that's inspiring you, or how are you staying sane?
Um, we've been watching some things. I watched, you know, Tiger King.
Hell yeah! I watched.
We've moved on to Schitt's Creek. I have, you know,
Cool.
I have a 3-year-old daughter, so she takes up a lot of my day. Basically, like I've fallen into a kind of a schedule where I wake up at like 6:37, which is like a half hour before she wakes up, and then the morning becomes kind of all about her until nap time, and then at nap time I'll work out because I have a gym at my house here, and then she wakes up from naps, and then it's all about her again, and then bedtime, like cook dinner and watch a couple episodes of something, and then I'm exhausted, and my wife and I go to sleep. You know,
Yeah,
that's
that
kind of
sounds
the
nice.
yeah. It's you know we're so, you know we're so lucky because we have everything we want and need, and we're healthy, and you know
Yeah.
my personal situation is um, you know one I'm very grateful for. So, but I'm definitely conscious that it's not everyone's situation. You know.
Yeah, absolutely. That's sort of been my feeling too when people ask me how I am. It's like I'm great, but I feel extremely lucky to be in the position in the situation that I'm in being great. Like even if I got sick, I have health insurance and I'm in an all right place.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Um back to The Stranger, I was immediately reminded of this horror movie from the 80s called The Hitcher with Rutger Hauer and C. Thomas Howell. I was wondering if you
Oh,
guys
cool.
talked about that movie at
No,
all.
but
Oh,
I
really?
would like to watch it. I worked with Rutger Hauer on Valerian. He has a small part in Valerian. Um, but I don't know of that movie, but I'll check it out for sure.
It's a
The Hitcher?
oh, Jennifer Jason Leigh is in it too. Now that if
Oh
I
no
remember
way.
correctly,
Okay.
yeah, it's a sick, and I mean that not like sick, bro, but like a sick horror movie.
Oh
Like
wow. Cool.
it's pretty gratuitous.
Okay.
But Rutger Hauer's pretty great in it.
Yeah, cool.
He
I
plays
love
the hitchhiker.
Jennifer Jason Leigh. I'm working on this Apple TV Plus series with also. So
Oh, right on. How is
she's
that?
she's awesome. Yeah, she's really cool. I worked with her first in Kill Your Darlings, um, and now in this. I love her. I just watched Bronx, Brooklyn. Last Stop in Brooklyn.
Oh, Last Exit to Brooklyn. The
Yeah.
is it the Hubert Selby Jr.? Is that his name? The author that's based off, I think. Yeah,
Yeah, I
something
guess so.
like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's the best part of that movie.
Yeah, and it's like one of her first. You know, that's why I checked that.
Yeah, you can kind
But
of
no, I
tell when.
haven't seen it. I didn't. I wasn't really given any like specific references of things to watch for The Stranger. Everything. It was a bit like it was more last minute. Like I jumped into it a little more last minute than I'm used to with projects. You know, I think I had like maybe a month to wrap my mind around everything and prepare before I had to be on set.
How do you prepare for playing a character like that? Like I always imagine Jack Nicholson in the behind the scenes of The Shining, where he's sort of like amped up and running around with the axe and yelling before the cameras start rolling. Do you have to do things like that before they start rolling, where you're going to be chasing someone or acting like a maniac?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'll do like. I mean, yeah, I'll do if I have to be running around and amped up. I'll do like push-ups or burpees or you know something like that. Push up against a wall and scream. You know, I definitely there is like well, there's a lot of. I was more talking about all the preparation that goes up to before that moment, but then like
Right?
yeah, right when you're like about to go into the scene. I think in a really important part of the scene is a strong like moment before. Like, what is the moment that the audience doesn't see, but where are you coming from and what headspace are you in? And that's the jumping off point for the entire scene. So if it happens to be like mid chase or mid like extreme situation, I will do certain things to amp myself up for sure.
When you're doing those things to amp yourself up and the cameras aren't rolling, how do you get like comfortable doing that in front of a crew who's like, moving a light around or like unplugging something while you're kind of like ah?
Well, it depends on the set, I think you can't be, you have to do your job,
Yeah,
and you can't be so concerned about like other people's feelings in situations like that. Not that like I'm doing things that are going to offend people, but I mean, if people think it's weird or I'm in someone's way or something, it's like, well, like I'll do my best to do it out of your way, but also like we all have a responsibility here. So like,
and that's yeah.
take your time to light it, take your time to set up the shot, but then like when it's my turn, like give me the time to do what I need to do, and that's what'll make a beautiful film or a fun, scary Quibi or whatever. You know what I mean? I mean, it's not like it always is comfortable. It's not like I'm. Sometimes it feels weird to have to do those things, but to not do those things, I think you would be cheating yourself and ultimately the viewer from getting a full like experience.
Absolutely. Have you ever had a situation where you didn't feel comfortable doing that and then you saw the final product and you were like, okay, now I know exactly how I have to be when I'm on set and how to focus and how to make sure that I'm doing the thing that I want it to become.
I don't know that I fully understand the question.
Like, have you ever
Like, have I ever
limited
been scared to do stuff like that before a scene and then not done it? Is that what you
yeah,
mean?
yeah, and then seen the final product and been and learn and basically learned your lesson.
Um, yeah. I don't know that it's been because of a final product that I've learned my lesson, but I can
Sure.
definitely say, like, as my career's progressed and I've become more comfortable on film sets and become, it's become less about, and I've become more established as like a professional in this business. I'm less concerned about pleasing those around me than I
Mhm.
am like doing a good job and like understanding what I need for that. And so like again, like I'm all about kindness and graciousness and all of
Of
that, but
course.
I'm also all about being clear with my wants and needs to be able to achieve something awesome. You know what I mean? And I've been less afraid to ask for those things and less afraid to, if I have to like isolate myself, a lot of times I'll do that on a set. I'll ask for like just like build me a little tent or like let me go back to my trailer and let me like kind of stay in my headspace just so that I can do my thing and not get in other people's way. And I've become much less afraid to ask for what I want. And I think it's a part of, it's been a part of how I've grown as an artist.
Well, it's also, I think, important for an actor like you, who you often play characters who are living inside their head.
You're cutting in and out.
Oh, I was just saying. I mean, it seems like that would be important especially important for you, because you often play characters that are really living inside their head. No?
Yeah, I
Oh,
think
okay.
so. Yeah. No, yeah, I'm saying yeah.
Oh, okay.
I think so, yeah. I think I always try to maintain a certain amount of like staying in that headspace when I'm on a set. Um, I also like I don't want it to be detrimental to the process either. Is this working?
Yeah, I got you, but I think we have a
Can you
delay.
hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Because I lost your video again, but oh, there you are. Okay. Yeah, I think I it still has to help the process. I think
Hmm.
I've also been on sets where maybe like my fellow actor or maybe like the actor or the director that the project is really like the star of the show, or like the director doesn't necessarily want that energy. They want a more playful energy. So I think sometimes if it feels like it doesn't make sense to be like super serious and in my own headspace, because that'll be detrimental to the project as a whole, then I'll drop it a little bit, especially when I'm around those people, you know, because I think it's still about creating a collaborative workspace. But ultimately, if it were up to me, and most of the time that I'm playing these characters, I do kind of like stay to myself, stay in the headspace, and operate in my own little world in that way.
Dane, I always love talking to you. It's a pleasure to talk to you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, there's like a weird delay, but I can hear you, and I like talking to you too. Which is why I'm talking to you right now in my house. So.
Congrats on The Stranger. I'm glad to see that you're healthy and safe, and that you're doing well with your family and spending a lot of time with your 3-year-old daughter. That sounds lovely.
Yeah, thanks, man.
And hopefully you can get back to shooting that show with Jennifer Jason Leigh soon.
Yeah, Jennifer Jason Leigh, and we have an awesome cast. It's Jennifer Jason Leigh, Joan Allen, Clive Owen, and Julianne Moore.
Whoa!
Yeah, and it's Pablo Larraín's directing it.
Wow.
It's going to be really special. And
wait,
cool. Crazy.
Forgive me for confusing the two filmmakers, but is Pablo Larraín the director of Jackie, or is he the one that just? Okay.
Yeah.
I was confusing him with the I believe Chilean director that directed the remake that Julianne Moore just did a couple of years ago. I can't remember.
No, but Pablo Larraín is Chilean.
Yeah, that's why I confused. That's why I think I confused the two.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway.
We'll talk about that one next, I'm sure.
Please, I hope so. It's good to see you, man. Take care of yourself. Stay healthy. Stay safe.
You too. See you, man.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.